Last month, former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte endorsed the secession of Mindanao, the Philippines' second largest island, amid a major feud that has erupted between Duterte and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., shattering the short-lived alliance between their two families. Duterte and Marcos have traded accusations of drug abuse, while the wider feud involves power struggles, constitutional reform, China, the US, and the International Criminal Court. So in this video, we're going to try and tie all of that together and explain just what the hell is going on. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Let's start by introducing you to the two key players in this story. Firstly, former President Rodrigo Duterte. Duterte served as president of the Philippines from 2016 to 2022. The other key figure is incumbent President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who was elected in 2022, succeeding Duterte, who was constitutionally limited to a single 6-year term. Marcos Jr. is also the son and namesake of the country's late dictator, who ruled the Philippines from 1965 until he was ousted in 1986. Political dynasties are a common feature of Philippine politics, and the 2022 election saw the cementing of a powerful alliance between the Marcos and Duterte clans. Marcos Jr. was elected president, while Sara Duterte, Rodrigo Duterte's daughter, was elected vice president. The alliance between the two families was never expected to last forever, but it has collapsed in a spectacularly public fashion surprisingly quickly, not even 2 years into Marcos and Sara Duterte's 6-year terms. Adding to the drama is the fact that Rodrigo Duterte is now talking about pushing for the secession of Mindanao, an island group that includes the Philippines' second largest island and nearly a quarter of its population, but we'll come back onto that later. So what is the feud all about? Well, towards the end of January, former President Duterte delivered a heated and expletive-laden speech in which he accused Marcos of being a drug addict, whose name was on the country's drug watch list, something that both the Drug Enforcement Agency and Marcos himself denied. In fact, Marcos hit back by saying that Duterte must have made the accusation under the influence of fentanyl. For context, Duterte admitted back in 2016 to using the opioid as pain relief following a motorcycle accident. So, responding to Marcos's counter-accusation, Duterte returned fire, telling Marcos, "Fentanyl is prescribed by a doctor. After that, I got better. Now I'm asking you, does cocaine have a prescription? Where do you get your supply?" But while the tit-for-tat drug accusations make for compelling headlines, there's more to the feud than just that. In his speech, Duterte was speaking out against Marcos's ongoing effort to amend the Philippines' 1987 constitution. Marcos supports loosening the economic provisions of the charter to allow for greater foreign investment into the country, though opponents including Duterte have accused him of actually wanting to scrap or extend term limits to allow him to serve more than a single 6-year term as president. As such, Duterte warned Marcos that attempting to change the constitution risks Marcos suffering the same fate as his father, who was ousted by the People Power Revolution in 1986. The rift between the two powerful families has other angles too. Marcos, diverging from his more Beijing-friendly predecessor, has reoriented Philippine foreign policy to be markedly more pro-US and anti-China by expanding American access to military bases in the country. Sebastian Duterte, Rodrigo's son and incumbent Davao City mayor, says this policy is putting Filipino lives in danger and has called on Marcos to resign. There's also been a dispute over Vice President Sara Duterte's use of confidential funds, and on top of this, Marcos is treading a cautious line in relation to the International Criminal Court, which is investigating the bloody war on drugs waged by the Duterte administration. A lot of this should be seen within the context of the lead-up to midterm elections in 2025, and ultimately the presidential election in 2028. Ahead of which the Marcos and Duterte families are looking to consolidate their positions. Vice President Sara Duterte is currently considered a frontrunner for 2028, though Marcos's cousin, the incumbent House Speaker, is also a likely challenger. Sara Duterte has so far reaffirmed her support for Marcos, even while other members of her family have attacked him. But one policy she's publicly criticised Marcos for is his administration's decision to reopen peace negotiations with the country's communist rebels, which she said was an agreement with the devil. So where does secession come into this? A few days ago, Rodrigo Duterte held a press conference in which he floated the idea of Mindanao separating from the Philippines. Duterte said he'd tasked Representative Pantaleon Alvarez, a supporter of secession, to gather signatures in support of the idea, and insisted it would not be sedition or rebellion, but would instead follow a supposed UN process. As for Duterte's justification, he said he'd rather his home region be independent, since nothing has happened in the Philippines after so many presidents. The former president added, "Whatever we do under the present setup, there will be another lousy president." Others have different hypotheses. Is it, as one lawmaker proposed, a way for Duterte to create an escape bunker to evade the International Criminal Court? After all, he did say in his press conference that if there will be a separate Mindanao Republic, the ICC could no longer enter Mindanao because Alvarez here will hide me, referring to the representative leading his initiative. Or perhaps it's simply just political manoeuvring, grabbing the headline, sowing divisions, and creating a new axis in the Duterte-Marcos feud, in which he can say that Marcos's government in Manila is failing to serve Mindanao, which has higher levels of poverty than the rest of the country and is home to Davao City, the Duterte family's political stronghold. Whatever his intention, the response was quick. Marcos's national security advisor said the government would not hesitate to use its authority and forces to quell attempts at secession. Meanwhile, the Philippine Department of Justice said it vehemently opposes calls for the secession of Mindanao, which undermine the unity and territorial integrity of the Philippines, as enshrined in the Constitution. According to Philippine news reports, many local Mindanao politicians and leaders have expressed their opposition to Duterte's call for secession. Mindanao does have a turbulent history with separatism, though. The region has been the site of decades of conflict, with insurgents and extremist groups battling the central government. The largest rebel group, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, had been fighting for decades for independence for the Muslim-majority part of Mindanao, but gave up its armed struggle to sign a peace agreement in 2014 in exchange for greater autonomy for the Muslim-majority Bangsamoro region. Governors and officials from the autonomous region, themselves former separatists, including the leader of the MILF, condemned Duterte's call for secession and urged unity and support for the Philippine government and ongoing implementation of the peace process. Anyway, exactly to what extent Duterte's comments were political bluster remains to be seen, but the major fallout between his family and that of President Marcos has certainly shaken up the political scene, and it doesn't look like the feud will die down anytime soon. Geopolitics and national security issues definitely seem to be getting more difficult right now, as we regularly cover in our videos, but when it comes to your personal security, that's never been easier, thanks to our sponsor NordVPN. That's because NordVPN offers you one-click protection, with their threat protection service shielding you from malware, trackers, and ads, especially when you're on dodgy public Wi-Fi networks. Not only that, their dark web monitoring service actively notifies you if someone leaks your credentials, helping you stay one step ahead. All of this protection doesn't have to come at the expense of great connection though, with NordVPN offering the very fastest service of any VPN, allowing you to connect almost instantly anywhere in the world. Throw in their 24/7 customer service, dedicated apps on all major platforms, one account protecting 6 devices, and 30 days money-back guarantee, it's hard to come up with reasons not to sign up. Plus, if you sign up for a 2-year plan using our link, you'll not only get a massive discount, but you also get 4 extra months totally free. So if you're trying to improve our journalism by signing up for Nord, make sure you click our link, and you'll get their great service at a discount.